Hi, everybody. How are you today? It occurred to me that in New York, we Hi, everybody. Went. How are you today? We had a change in our time. Just on Saturday night, we lost an hour, and I haven't had time to really look into this, but I think it's possible that in other places in the world, this is happening at a different time. So I think hopefully this isn't going to be too difficult for you guys if you're in Europe somewhere or if you're in Australia. Hopefully you can figure out the change in time for yourselves. But I'm sorry if you end up not being able to catch this show live. Hello to Joyce Glasgow. Hi to Grace Chu. Hi to Michael Loftus. Daniele Pralong says, hello to all from a stormy, snowy Switzerland. What an exhilarating experience on Saturday with Dan and Antonio Sanchez. The free improvisation format suited you two beautifully. I also enjoyed Firenze and the composition Dan wrote for Antonio. A privileged moment. Well, it was a really, really fun concert for me. Very, very special to connect with Antonio for the first time, and really special to have you all there. In fact, I mean, as Daniele points out, this was kind of the first ticketed live stream I've done that was primarily free improvisation. It wasn't entirely free improvisation, but there was a lot of free improvisation, which, as you know, is one of my favorite things to do, and it's really fun to do it with a master like Antonio. I should say too that Antonio had such an amazing attitude all the way through the process. Was just super positive about trying this crazy thing out, and it's really beautiful, very inspiring. Marlia Reese says, we don't do daylight savings time here either, but we're always at 7,000 feet. Today, 14 inches of snow and more on the way. Okay, so for you, Marlia, the time of this live stream must have changed. Hi to Freda Tepfer. Hi to Juan Daniel Pastor. Hi to Roberto Barahona, who's in Beverly Hills. And hi Gia Gogatishvili, who I believe is in the Republic of Georgia. And hi to Jean-Paul Cloutier. I'm going to jump in and play some music. There was a request last week for International Women's Day for a song by Joni Mitchell, and I did sing both sides now, but there was a request for Hejira, which is maybe my favorite song of hers, and I didn't sing it because I knew I needed to brush up on it a little bit. So I brushed up on it a little bit this morning, and I thought I'd sing that for you. So here we go. This is Hejira by Joni Mitchell. I'm traveling in some vehicle. I'm sitting in some cafe. A defector from the petty wars that starstruck love away. I'm going to start this again because I messed up some lyrics, and I can do better than this. Take two. Here we go. I'm traveling in some vehicle. I'm sitting in some cafe. a defector from the petty wars that shell-shocked love away. There's comfort in melancholy when there's no need to explain. It's as natural as the weather in this moody sky today. In our possessive coupling, so much could not be expressed. So now I am returning to myself these things that you and I repressed. I see something of myself in everyone, just at this moment of the day, as snow gathers like bolts of lace, waltzing on a ballroom girl. You know, it never has been easy, whether you do or you do not resign, whether you travel the breadth of extremities or stick to some straighter line. Now there's a boy and a girl sitting on the rock. They're either gonna thaw out or freeze. Listen, strains of Benny Goodman coming through the snow and the pinewood trees. I'm porous with travel fever, but you know I'm so glad to be on my own. Yet the slightest touch of a stranger can set up trembling in my bones. I know no one's gonna show me everything. We each come and go unknown, each so deep and superficial, between the forceps and the stone. While I looked at the granite markers, those tributes to eternity, to finality, and I looked at myself here, chicken scratching for my immortality. Well, in the church they light the candle, and the wax flows down like tears. I see the hope and the hopelessness I witnessed 30 years. We're only particles of change, I know, orbiting around the sun. But how can I have that point of view when I'm always bound and tied to someone? White flags of winter chimneys wave truce against the moon from the windows of a modern bank, in the mirrors of a hotel room. I'm traveling in some vehicle. I'm sitting in some cafe, a defector from the petty wars, until love sucks me back that way. Hijira by the great Joni Mitchell. Yeah, thanks for requesting that last week. It was really fun to kind of dive back into those lyrics again. I just think those lyrics are incredibly profound, and they really move me. So thank you for bearing with me in my amateur singing. I wanted to point out, that Antonio Sanchez, the great percussionist whom I played with on Saturday. So as those of you who came to the live stream know, he talked at length about his experience scoring the Oscar-winning Birdman. And Birdman is actually one of my favorite movies, and I actually rewatched it last night. And I think Birdman and Hijira actually deal with exactly the same topic, which is the paradox of humans being able to live simultaneously with a incredibly broad view of our place in the universe, meaning we're conscious of how small we are. We know how large the universe is. We know how small the Earth is on the scale of the universe, and we know not only that, but we know how short our lives, our individual lives, are on the scale of not only human history, but the history of the universe and the history of Earth and the history of life. So on the one hand, we have a sense of scale. We have a sense of how small we are, both in terms of geography and in terms of history. And on the other hand, we're eternally trapped inside our own point of view. And literally every time we open our eyes, we see our nose. And there's no way around that, really. So as modern humans, we're constantly living in the paradox of these two views. This didn't used to be the case. I mean, people might have an intuitive sense of, looking up at the sky and feeling small, but ultimately there wasn't this certainty of how small we are that had to coexist with also the certainty of how important our own point of view is, because that's what we have to deal with on a daily basis. And so this is a really important paradox at the center of contemporary life. And so Birdman deals with that really directly. There's a scene in Birdman where the protagonist, Regan Thompson's daughter, who's just come out of rehab, is covering the squares of a roll of toilet paper with little dashes, and each dash represents a million years of I forget if it represents a million years of life existing on Earth, if I remember correctly. Either that or it's the entire lifespan of the Earth, which is 4.5 billion years. Anyway, so the whole roll of toilet paper is covered in these little dashes, each one representing a million years. And she points out that that humans have been around for only 150,000 years or so, and so the last toilet paper square, that's the existence of humanity on Earth, and it just puts it in perspective relative to the entire rest of the roll. But then you would have to look into, right, so each one of those dashes definitely doesn't represent 1,000,000 years. Each one of those dashes must represent 1,000 years. Anyway, so you would have to look at the very end of that last square in order to see anything like our own lifespan. And similarly in Hejira, Joni Mitchell says, "We're only particles of change, I know, orbiting around the sun." So there's that sense of smallness, right? And with respect to the vastness of the universe, we're only particles of change, I know. Not only are we only particles orbiting around the sun, but we're particles of change. Everything is constantly in transience. And then she says, we're only particles of change, I know, orbiting around the sun. But how can I have that point of view when I'm always bound and tied to someone? So for her, it's a breakup song, and so she's talking about how being in a relationship with somebody else kind of makes it difficult for her to keep that cosmic point of view. But I think also she's just dealing with the juxtaposition of those two different ways of seeing the world, the close view and the far view, and that's constantly happening in the song. She opens with, "I'm traveling in some vehicle." Is that a car? Is she in a car, or is she talking about traveling on spaceship Earth? The song is just constantly going between like the smallest thing and the biggest cosmic thing, and so I really see Birdman and Hejira as dealing with very similar questions. Okay, enough talking. Hi to Feng Chun Hui, just joined us. And Mike Seitz says, toilet paper is an analogy. Yeah, it's true, because Regan Thompson wipes his mouth with parts of the toilet paper, and then the daughter says, you just wiped out the entirety of the human race. That sense of transience is kind of built in. Marley Reef says, vehicle equals our bodies. Yeah, that's a great other interpretation. I'm traveling in some vehicle. My soul's traveling in the vehicle of my body. How you manage to play Speak to Our Souls every single Monday absolutely floors me. Oh, thank you so much, Marlia. The song, one of the most utterly quotable ones I know. Also, I'm watching Birdman right after this. Yes, please do. It's truly an incredible movie. It's really one of my favorite movies of all time. Watching it last night, I wasn't disappointed at all. I watched it last in 2014, and I think it holds up spectacularly. The only thing that I would say maybe feels a little dated is the relationship between men and women in this movie. I feel like some of the ways that those play out would just not be written the same today. So I'd be curious to hear what you think once you've seen it again. Daniela Prolong says, in a completely different genre, you may enjoy Dead Man by Jim Jarmusch, score entirely improvised too on electric guitar by Neil Young. I gotta see that. I've seen a bunch of Jarmusch's movies, and I love them. So thanks for that recommendation. Okay, I'm going to dive into some more music. I'm going to turn some Natural Machines stuff on. I was commissioned to record a Natural Machines algorithm this week, and I actually went back in and tweaked some of the visuals for one of them, for the intervals algorithm, something I've been meaning to do for a while. So I'm going to play with that. There you go. That was a free improvisation with this algorithm intervals, which is just a kind of an exploration of constant what's the word? The sound of fixed intervals. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, I have a lot of fun with that one, and it's kind of a subtle difference in the graphics. Daniele Prolong says, "Wild Bartok on acid." Yeah, I think that's a good description. For those of you who know Conlon Nancaro, he's definitely an influence on that kind of thing. Feng Chun Hui says, "Wonder what it would sound like on the violin." Yeah, I'd like to hear you play that. Jen Detour thinks it should be called Daylight Savings Rag. Yeah, so anyway, I don't know if you remember how this was before, but it's kind of a subtle difference. The lines connecting the notes are now much more expressive. See, there's that width to them, and the width actually decreases once the note's been played. So you can see those lines start big and then get small, and also the notes fade out as they're going across the screen. This was actually one of the first visual algorithms I wrote years ago, and I never really updated it. So nice to come back to it. I appreciate excuses to kind of dig back into something like that. I feel like you guys are enjoying the natural machine stuff, and I'd like to do a little bit more of that. So I'm gonna play with my looper algorithm. I haven't done that in a really long time. So here we go. This is actually one of the more complicated algorithms I wrote. It allows me to loop anything I play at the piano, and also it allows me to transform what I'm looping in a way that wouldn't really be possible with just a traditional looper. So here we go. This is a free improvisation with looper. All righty. That was improvisation with my looper algorithm. And something funny happened, which is that I didn't intend for that visualization to be there. Joyce Glasgow commented, "What was that about particles orbiting around the sun? Illustrated." Yeah, that was a complete accident, and I almost stopped, but then I realized if there ever is a moment to play with a visualization of particles orbiting around the sun, this is it. That visualization I actually made for when I've shown this to you before, when I'm playing, when I'm mapping planetary orbit ratios to music. And so that's not what I would usually use for the looper. But I think at this moment in time, it made sense. Jen Detour says, you need to get Neil deGrasse Tyson to chime in on your natural machines graphics. Very astrophysics-y, at least to layman me. Well, I think I told you that that I'm starting a project with a professor of theoretical physics at MIT, because he realized that the graphics that are coming out on natural machines actually resemble some of the graphics that he has made to illustrate particle collisions. There was another request last week for a song that I was embarrassed not to know. It's One Note Samba by Joe Beam, and I'm going to play that for you now. One Note Samba. There you go, One Note Samba, which yeah, it's good to know that song. A song I should probably know. I think that was requested. I can't remember who requested that last week, actually. Um, maybe you can remind me. Mike Seitz says, I teased you last week about not knowing One Note Samba because it just sounded so ironic coming from a guy who can toss anything down so sweetly at will. You are, of course, amazing. Oh, thanks, Mike. Well, I do remember you teasing me, and I was like, he's right. I should know that song. On YouTube, Leaf asks, how do you come up with new melodies, Dan? You know, there's a great quote about that from Bach. A student asked Bach, said, you know, a student said, I can never seem to find a good theme for my fugue or something like that. It's hard for me to find a good melody. And Bach said, well, that's strange. You know, when I wake up in the morning and I step out of bed, I can hardly step on the floor because it's littered with melodies. And I think what he meant is melodies, coming up with material is actually probably pretty easy. It's really what you do with it. Speaking of which, maybe I should do a free improvisation with a theme. Oh, wait, no, I had another idea. For those of you who were there on Saturday for my concert with Antonio Sanchez, you may have heard I wrote a new tune for him, and I thought I might play it again for you guys because I made a few tweaks to it after I wrote it because I literally wrote it on Saturday morning. So yeah, I wanted to play it for you again. I think it's kind of a fun one. It doesn't have a name. A few people suggested names, and I still am going through those. But I'm just going to play it for you, and if you have other suggestions, please let me know. For now, it's called For Antonio Sanchez. Yeah. Um, that was my composition for Antonio Sanchez. I have to say, I really, I find that one pretty fun. Um, it's like, it's just only like a very little one-page composition, which is all I had time to do. But I think within that page, it manages to have a pretty convincing arc. You know, it starts in one place and then goes up and down, and um, I like that. It's fun to play, which is probably the most important thing. Um, you know, Thelonious Monk, who's obviously one of the greatest composers in jazz history for sure, and I would say in all of history of music, he said that the only reason he wrote all his songs, which he wrote a ton of, I think it's over 80, the only reason he wrote all of those was just so the guys would have something to play on the bandstand that wasn't the same stuff that everybody else was playing. So, you know, when you write something, it's something to play, and it's important that it be fun to play. And I actually find this one to be fun to play. So, Leaf asks again, what if you have trouble coming up with ideas? Well, I think to answer that question, I would say the important thing is if you're uninspired, if you don't have ideas that excite you, the important thing is to acknowledge that. And there's a couple ways of going about it. The first would be maybe if you don't have an idea, go with something really simple. You know, go with something that doesn't have an idea to it, because simplicity can also have beauty in it. So paring things down to the place where authentically you're at that moment. So maybe it's a very simple place that might actually have its advantages too. Another thing is if you're running out of ideas, maybe you need to get some new ideas, and you know, part of that is taking in new ideas. I've gotten a lot of inspiration, for example, from reading music theory books, also studying counterpoint, studying rhythmic ideas. Like this week, I've been studying some rhythmic ideas from Steve Coleman. You know, you need to take ideas in from other people. Paul James Brown says I should stick to For Antonio as a title. Carol McGoffin says, I love that composition for Antonio. Thank you, Carol. And Joyce Glasgow says it sounds completely different as a solo. Yeah, interesting, right? Mike Seitz says he noticed something about my right hand use. He says, there's so often a lot of space between your third and fourth fingers. You must have practiced the Spock move. But it's interesting how you improvise by zoning your hand that way, for lack of a better description. Yeah, I don't know. That's definitely not on purpose. But I will show you an amazing trick I'm able to do. I'm sure you've seen people do this. But have you seen people do both hands in contrary motion? Oh, yeah. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. So, yeah, I talked about doing a free improvisation. I'd like to do that for you now. But maybe I'll bring in another one of these algorithms from Natural Machines. Let's see. I think I'll do... oh, you know, one thing I haven't done in a very long time is this... Joyce Glasgow says, take me to your leader. One thing I haven't done in a very long time is improvise with my slow chord deformation algorithm. Yeah, I'm kind of excited to do that, actually. Here we go. la la da 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 de, lo do de lo do de da, do 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 de do de, lo do do de lo, lo do do de. La di la da, oh lo de la da de, la da di di da 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 di da, la da di di da di la da la da, ya da da ya la de. Yo do do di yo do do we do we. Oh do la di. Oh do la la. Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, Daniela Prolong points out that the melodica would be great with this. Yeah, that's true. Um, I'll get the melodica out next week. That'd be perfect for this. Joyce Glasgow says, "Nighttime, the whistler's dog resonates. Nighttime, the whistler's song resonates under a dark bridge. A curl of smoke rises from the glowing embers of a cigarette. In contrast to this mysterious figure, a young man sings out cheerfully in a nearby courtyard." Woo! Beautiful. I love how these spontaneous visions come to you, Joyce, and you can put them into words so poetically. Jane Eyre McDonald asks, "Have you worked with Bobby McFerrin?" I haven't, but I sure would love to. I'm such a fan. It was his birthday recently, wasn't it? I think it was his birthday a few days ago. I'm actually surprised that Paul James Brown hasn't mentioned that, because he always knows everyone's birthdays. Marlia Reese says, "Otherworldly, questions for the cosmos, for its almost pleading tone, yet optimism." And Freda Tepfer says, "I have this on via cell phone for puttering and originally on my laptop. So Dan is answering himself with a few seconds of delay. It makes it even more intense." Oh yeah, that's a great idea. Actually, a delay on what I just played would work really well. That's super cool. This is definitely a choose your own adventure kind of thing. You know, you can dance along, you can play along, you can add delays the way that Freda is doing. Lots of possibilities in these live streams. And Judy Babier says, "Hi from Basque Country. I didn't see it was 7 p.m. Yeah, unfortunately, I did tweet a half an hour before the show to say that daylight savings time, the time change might have messed up everybody's schedule. But anyway, glad you could join us now. Steve Cantor points out that it's Charles Lloyd's birthday today. Wow. I used to play a song by Charles Lloyd, Forest Flower, and now I don't know if I could possibly remember it. How's that go again? I can't even remember. I haven't listened to that in so long. Let's see. Forest Flower. I'm just going to put it on here. I'm just going to put it on here for a second. Let's see. Gotta mute this. Okay. I'm just going to put it on here. I'm just going to put it on here for a second. Yeah, that's it. Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, right. Sorry for that little interlude. Probably not the most engaging part of this live stream, but yeah. Yeah, Dave Kaufman points out that it's Keith Jarrett on piano on the live version. And yeah, this was actually a record my parents had as a vinyl, and I used to play this all the time in the house as like a, I don't know, 9 or 10-year-old, and yeah, it's actually kind of an influence on me. Let me see if I can remember this. Yeah, Forest Flower by Charles Lloyd. Yeah, I haven't. I literally have not played that definitely since I was a teenager. So it's it's been probably over 20 years. Yeah. Carol McGoffin says, "I'm stunned how you can remember these songs after being away from them for years." Well, I think the big thing with a song like that is that it's based on a vocabulary that as if you work on being a jazz musician for a long time, that vocabulary becomes very familiar, and so also something like the opening, then the next part, that's just the same thing but transposed up a minor third, and so just all these kind of ways of simplifying the song for yourself make it really easy to remember. I think I might have mentioned before that they ran an experiment on chess grandmasters, and what they did is that they showed them a position on a board that was that arose from an actual game, and they found that they could memorize that position very quickly and very easily. But then they would show them a position on a board that didn't come from a game, that couldn't have been arrived at in an actual game. Like the position of the pieces didn't make sense. And what they found is that the grandmasters were no better at memorizing that position than a random person taken off the street. So that's pretty interesting, and it tells you something about kind of data organization in our brains and data compression, I would say. Jan Mathies says, "Hi Dan, saw you live in Manhattan 10 years ago. Best from Hamburg in Germany." Thanks, Jan. Thanks for joining today. And hope we can have some live performances again soon. I'm actually playing live in Utah at the end of the month. Oh, which reminds me, there's something we need to talk about. This is my 49th Monday live stream today. 49th. So next Monday is going to be my 50th. And I have a few ideas of maybe how to celebrate, but I was wondering if you had some ideas. So please let me know in the comments, because a number of you have been here, maybe not for the entire 50 Mondays, but you've been here for a really solid chunk of those. So you're definitely you're just as important a part of this journey as I am. So yeah, let me know what you'd like me to do for the 50th. Marlia Reese says, "Let's celebrate." And Molly Shen says, "I figured we were coming up to the 1-year anniversary." Yeah, we are, but I started these Mondays a few weeks into the pandemic. So yeah, that's why it's only the 50th. Maybe I miscounted actually, because there are 54 weeks in a year, right? Oh no, 52 is one year. Yeah, so there you go. I started a couple weeks in. Joyce Glasgow says, "Celebrate 50 and 52 for 1 year." Bradley Klein says, "Similarly, when playing the board game Go regularly, it's not hard to replay a 200-move game after it's done. Whereas before you learn the vocabulary, it seems like a remarkable feat of memory." There you go. Another great example of the way human minds are organized. I have to say, I really love the community that we've developed here for these live streams, because so often you guys bring information and ideas to the table that are really fascinating and that I learn from. Frank Schumann says we should have cake. That's actually kind of a great idea. Maybe we should all have cake. Cake with like one candle on it, and we can all blow it out simultaneously. Okay, so we're doing cake. Kristen Berardi says votes for cake. Sally Spritz says, "How about establishing the official Dan fan club?" Well, yeah, I'll leave that up to you if you think that's a good idea. Dave Kaufman points out that there were studies with Go masters as well, so that's I think related to the comment I read just before. Okay, so cake. Jen Dutour is going to have an eclair because she lives in Paris. George Thomas Wilson says maybe do a Zoom concert where we can all see each other. Well, I think that might be a few too many people because usually it's between 60 and 80 people watching, and I don't think that would really make sense over Zoom. But you know what would be cool? If you want to send me something ahead of time. So Joyce Glasgow says, how about if everyone brings in a photo, art, or a special poem? So if you want to send me something ahead of time, that could be part of the stream because, really the most beautiful part of these live streams is honestly not my performing for you. It's really just a sense of community. So I want to celebrate you guys. So if you want to send me something that you would like me to share, that would be great. You can send it to me by just social media, or probably the best would be would be like send me a message on Facebook. That Facebook would be the best, or YouTube. Actually, I don't know if you can send me messages on YouTube. Anyway, you could also send me an email. I'm just dantepfer@gmail.com. Oh, Mike Sight says, can we write you a theme for improv? That's a great idea. So if that's what you'd like your contribution to be, just write me a theme. That would be great. Just like a simple theme on a musical staff, and I'll improvise on that. That's a really great idea. So yeah, send me that. Marlia Reese says, should we have a subject line for our messages? Yeah, that's a good idea. Make the subject line celebrating 50. Let's say celebrating 50 is the subject line. And Jen Dutour asked, where's Silvano? Exactly, where is he? He made an amazing he's been pivoting towards making graphic novels during these live streams rather than just pictures, and they're really pretty amazing. Maybe he couldn't be here today, or maybe he got messed up with the time change. Anyway, I also wanted to mention that for the people who support me on Patreon, I am going to do a Zoom call because I actually promised that I'd do one every month. I haven't done very well on those, but I'm going to start now. So I'm going to do a Zoom call where you can just ask me anything you want, and it's going to be, let's see, it's going to be on March 21st. And you can find the link to that on Patreon. So patreon.com/DanTepfer. So, all right, I think we have some great ideas. Sending themes in are great. Kristen Berardi says, my kids are going to do a drawing. Fantastic. So yeah, let's do that. Send me, if you want to draw something, send that to me. If you want a poem, send that to me. If you want to submit a theme for me to improvise on, send that to me. So there you go. It's been an absolute pleasure playing for you today. This has been really fun. And I'm really excited about next week. Make sure you send me the stuff, in advance so that I can kind of get it ready. And I look forward to celebrating with you next Monday with cake and all kinds of other surprises. All right.